You're listening to The Dangerous Mind of Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov. No excuses, no BS, no pants.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I have something in my hand right now that I think you will enjoy. And get your mind out of the gutter. But if you look on your screen, the thumbnail for this audio-only episode will show you the cover of Dear Playboy Advisor, a book written and published by Playboy Magazine's senior editor Chip Rowe back in 2006. Now this book is out of print, so it's a relic of an era gone by. The Playboy Advisor was a column that appeared in Playboy Magazine. And again, if you think Playboy Magazine was just full of nudie photos, then you're only getting part of the picture. I mean, obviously, the nudie photos were the big attraction. But there was an advice column called Dear Playboy Advisor that ran for decades. As a matter of fact, you know what? Here, let me get into it. I'm just going to read you the opening here. All right, this will explain it. So this is an amazing book. And I'll tell you the story behind it real quick. So here we go. Introduction. This is written by Chip Rowe, the senior editor of Playboy, who was the guy in charge of the Playboy Advisor column. In 1997, the New York Times asked me to share the most memorable question I'd received in my role as the Playboy Advisor. Here it is. Each summer, I drag a recliner into the woods near my house. Now, let me just preface this by saying there will be some mature content. And if you are offended by mature content, then you'll probably want to stick around. Because, if you're offended by it, you probably, dig it in a way. But you don't tell anybody, and that can stay between us. That's totally cool. But, fair warning. Let me start again. Each summer, I drag a recliner into the woods near my house. When I feel horny, I sit in the chair in the nude and spray insect repellent everywhere on my body except my genitals. Is this normal? Signed GB, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Okay, first of all, not surprised that this is from Florida. Second of all, I'm talking on a U89. So I just thought that's something I should have said at the beginning of the show. But this is the U89 with no EQ on it. And I'm not going to DS it either. So going into the MT48. So it's really just what you're hearing is the sound of the mic in cardioid. But we're going to talk more about the U89, but I feel like this is the lead story. So yeah, is this normal? Signed GB from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Chip says, my response was simple. I asked GB, have you seen any other chairs out there? That was his response. He said, if only every letter were so offbeat. Instead, I feel a twinge of anxiety each month as I read through the new batch of reader email. Will we receive enough questions that we haven't already answered? There's a reason to feel insecure. Since the Advisor debuted in September 1960, Playboy has published more than 6,500 questions of nearly 400,000 received. And yet month after month, the magazine's readers surprise me. Okay, so I'm not going to read the rest of the introduction, but hopefully that gives you an idea. Now, the book is not just about perversion and kinky stuff and sex and all that. This is the thing about the Playboy Advisor. Okay? There's a section on fitness, right? Here, let me just read this. Free weights versus machines. Which provide the better results, free weights or machines? I say there's no difference. My father says that a barbell and a bench are all he needs. KO from Chesapeake, Virginia. And Chip writes back. Studies have not shown a significant difference. Your muscles don't care what provides the resistance. Free weights engage more muscles than a machine because you must balance and control the load. They also give you more flexibility to design exercises specific to your sport, especially for the lower body. They're less expensive, take up less space, and work with every body type. However, they take more time to adjust, which can slow down your workout and usually require a spotter. Machines are more comfortable for most people. Free weights seem riskier to beginners. Some people prefer hybrids such as Bowflex, which provides resistance through flexible rods and handles. Okay, now again, I just want to say that this book was published in 2006. And it being published in 2006, I am going to guess that every question in here was written before 2005. So remember the era from which these questions were asked and answered. It is a bygone era, okay? I don't have to say anything. It's a different world today. People are a little bit more sensitive about these topics, but you know what? I'm reading this as a historical reference. I am, because again, this book is out of print. This is like reading the Farmer's Almanac from 1898. Here we go. Here's another one. Does male menopause exist? Is there such a thing as male menopause? If so, what can I do about it? TL, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. By the way, what do you think of the U89 so far? Oh, I digress. Anyway, Chip says, while women's hormone levels drop dramatically, usually in their early 50s, men experience a more gradual decline. One study found that men's testosterone levels drop about 1% annually from age 39 to 70. As men age, their bodies sag. They take longer to heal from illness or injuries. They have less physical endurance. They may feel depressed, anxious, irritable, or indecisive. They have less interest in sex, less forceful ejaculations, and difficulty achieving and maintaining erections. What role testosterone or other hormones play in this remains unclear. That's one reason to be cautious about testosterone therapy, which can increase your risk of prostate cancer. It may not cure erectile dysfunction if the problem is high blood pressure, arteriosclerosis, diabetes, depression, or other illnesses. Scientists are studying the effects of various hormones on the symptoms of middle age. In the meantime, exercise, good nutrition, and regular medical exams are always a good idea. So you know what it's like? It's like having an older brother or uncle who knows stuff for the questions that you are possibly uncomfortable asking your coworkers, or maybe the guy behind you in line at the supermarket. So anyway, so all the questions are not what you think they are. There are all kinds of lifestyle questions, but there are definitely questions. Here's one. This is from the chapter Affairs. Affairs. This is from the chapter Affairs. What is this guy thinking? All right, this is written from a woman's perspective. I had an affair with a guy for 2 months, but a girlfriend told me afterward that I did some dumb things when going about it. One, since he's married, so am I, he didn't want anyone to see him sign into the motel, so he had me do it. 2, he paid for the room the first time, but thereafter let me do it. 3, he always said he had to hurry home because he felt guilty. He wouldn't even walk out of the room with me. I always checked out by myself. 4, we never went anywhere because he was afraid someone would see us. We only met every 2 weeks, even though we lived near each other. 5, after I got home, I would email him sweet things, but would not hear back from him for days. I know the problems are glaring. Yeah. But can you tell me from a man's perspective, what was he thinking? Okay. I'm sure most of you could answer this. Here we're going to play a little game. Can you think in your mind, can you anticipate, can you predict what the Playboy Advisor is going to answer? This is what he said. You wanted romance, he wanted sex, and he got what he wanted. Plus, you picked up the tab. Throw in a massage and an order of wings, and you're every man's fantasy. You might do better telling your husband what you want and asking what he wants, and figuring out together how you can provide for each other than looking for an answer in a motel room with a guy who treats you like a prostitute. FYI, he didn't feel guilty, and he had done it before. Wow, right? So, 10 points to you if you got that one right. This book is full of this. I'm just going to give you a preview because I feel like there's a lot more to be read from this book, but not necessarily today. This is the table of contents. Introduction, which we already visited. This is in alphabetical order, so it's affairs, anal, oral, AURAL, automotive, cigars, college life, contraception, cooking, desire, etiquette, fashion, the female body, fitness, gaming, getting hitched, grooming, health, in the bedroom, kink, the married life, masturbation, miscellaneous, online oral orgasm, paying for it, penis, porn, positions, relationships, semen, sex toys, the single life, spirits, as in like alcohol, not not like Ouija board conjuring up spirits. Sports, STDs, stereos, swingers, threesomes, tips and tricks, letters that didn't make the cut. And then the last one's contacting the Playboy Advisor, which is really nothing we need to visit because Playboy Magazine does not exist anymore, really, as it used to. So why do I have this book? Why was this book given to me by Chip Rowe at the Playboy Advisor? So okay. So a long time ago, 2006, was a monumental year for my relationship with Playboy Magazine. And yes, before you ask, the title, The Microphone Playboy, is definitely inspired by the lifestyle magazine Playboy. Because I honestly feel like voiceover and really everything that I do for voiceover, all the preparation, all the voice maintenance, everything, my love of microphones, it's a lifestyle for me. VO lifestyle. And of course, everybody likes microphone porn. Everybody loves showing off the mic and looking at the mic. We all love mic porn. Let's not deny it. That all inspired the name, Microphone Playboy. It didn't hurt that I had a relationship with Playboy Magazine at the time that was actually like one of the coolest things going on in my life. So in 2006, Playboy Magazine published a little tiny feature piece on me. And when I say tiny, it's tiny. And it was in the On the Scene section of the magazine, which is near the back. And On the Scene was what's happening, where it's happening, and who's making it happen. So to be chosen to be in On the Scene, like me, I thought that was amazing. And it was really about, here, I'm just going to read you a headline. I'm not going to read you the whole little piece because that would be that would be too cocky. Here we go. But the headline, and you'll get the gist, really. The world's most offensively enlightened podcast is killing old school radio 25 minutes at a time. So I found out that the office at Playboy Magazine was listening to my podcast, Pacific Coast Hellway. The senior editors were listening to my podcast, which was 5 days a week. And it was on Sirius Satellite Radio. And so finding this out and having them contact me and say, hey, we'd like to do a piece on you. Scott Alexander, who was the senior editor of Lifestyle, he contacted me. We did an interview and they put a picture of me. And it really was like probably one of the 3-4 top coolest things to ever happen. And so it was pretty cool. August 2006. Just seems like forever ago. And then during that process, being pals with Scott Alexander, one time I went into New York City and he was like, hey, come by the Playboy office on Fifth Avenue right there. And we'll go to lunch. And I'm like, yeah. So I'm in New York for a weekend. And I go, it's like Friday, and I go have lunch with Scott, and he brings along Chip Rowe, who's the senior editor at the Playboy Advisor, and they're like, we love your show, et cetera, et cetera. But so he gives me the book and basically says, this is coming out. They're asking me to promote it, to talk about it. And so I was like, all right, can I read from it? And they're like, sure. So this book was given to me to promote it. And unfortunately, it's out of print. And though some of the answers and information in here may be outdated or possibly inappropriate, I mean, there are a lot of questions in here that the answers to have such high entertainment value. And I think that this will be great to draw from in future episodes. But I found this thing and I was like, wow, I can't believe I still have this. But why would I ever throw this away? So yeah, my relationship with Playboy Magazine back in the day was something I was really fond of. And no, I didn't get to meet any naked women or go to any photo shoots. I got to hang out with the editors, the cool people who were there. And they had a great office right on Fifth Avenue in New York. It was basically right across the street from where the Big Apple store is. So we're talking prime time real estate in Manhattan, which they had occupied probably since the magazine started. So what do you think of the U89 so far? Right? Isn't this a beautiful mic? I love this mic. what I love about the U89, and the U89 is an interesting animal because the U89, it was created to replace the U87. The U89 debuted in 1980, right? And so this is decades after the U87 was out, and the U89 was designed to be a superior technological recording tool to the U87, and primarily because they wanted to engineer out that mid-range nasal honk thing that some people have with the U87, particularly on vocals. They wanted to make it a little bit more of a mic that sounded better on everything. And I think it does. I think it's definitely technologically a mic that is ahead of the U87. But the U87 is really a dinosaur at this point, but everyone loves and knows it. And the user base for the U87 at the point at which the U89 came out was so wide, right? If we're talking 1980, we're talking about, 50, 60,000 at least U87s out there in the world. And these people are not going to be like, oh, I'm just going to toss this out. I love the sound of the 87, but I'm going to toss it out and get the new one. So the U89 never really got the popularity that I think Neumann thought it was going to enjoy. But it's a great sounding mic. So you're listening to it with no EQ in cardioid. But here, I'm going to flip through a couple of polar patterns here because it does 5. That's the cool thing too about it. There are 2 things about it technologically that I really, really like about it. One is it has 5 polar patterns. So you get, in addition to the big 3, and of course those are omni, figure 8, and cardioid, you get wide cardioid. Wide cardioid is obviously what it sounds like, a wider cardioid. And then you get hypercard, which is a tighter polar pattern, which I think is really effective for voiceover. Now, in particular, I really like this sound, the cardioid sound on the U89, but let's flip through all the polar patterns, all right? And I'm not going to compare it to the U87 here today because I feel like that's a disservice. Because you hear one against the other, and even if it's just very brief, because it would be like me talking into one for like 10 seconds and then to the other for 10 seconds. And I feel like that's a really unfair way to compare mics, is short burst little comparisons. What you want really, optimally, you want to have experience with a mic, and whether that experience is firsthand or listening to a mic. So I want you to hear this entire episode of this show on a U89. And then I will do the next one on the U87, and then maybe we will do back and forth. We'll do a comparison between them. But that way you can listen to it, and you can hear the gamut of me talking all through all kinds of different words and consonants and intonations and whatever. And you can pinpoint maybe things you don't like about it or that you do like about it, as opposed to hearing me say like one commercial through both of them and just be like, oh, well, this one sounds better than that. And that's just a comparison which tells you which one is better on that particular read and not necessarily gives you the ability to decide which one you like better if you had to choose between them. I'm going to stick with the U89 today, but we're going to run through the polar patterns. So right now this is cardioid. So this is figure 8, and I really like figure 8 a lot on the U89. I think that figure 8 would be really good for audiobooks. I think it would be great for a lot of stuff, even just like talking, because it's got more of a smooth top end. I think that it's non-fatiguing. I think that you could listen to this type of recording for a longer period of time. I think it's a little bit more soothing. If I was doing some kind of like meditation type of narration, I might consider figure 8. Figure 8 is pretty cool. And of course, I think figure 8 benefits from the fact that I'm in a very well-treated small booth. So we're not getting a lot of massive room reflections from what is in front of me. So figure 8. So now we're in hypercard. So a hypercardioid, a tighter polar pattern, of course, gives you a little bit of what's happening behind the capsule as well, right? So it's like if you look at the lobe of hypercard, you get a smaller lobe in front, like where the cardioid lobe is, right? So it's a tighter polar pattern up front with a little bit of pickup of ambience around it. And that helps. All right, so let's go to cardioid. So back to cardioid. And at this point, cardioid might sound boring to you because you're like, oh, the other flavors are pretty cool. So let's go to wide cardioid. This is wide cardioid. And I think wide cardioid definitely feels a little bit more roomy. And when I say roomy, I mean you're hearing more of the room, obviously. I'm not really a fan of wide cardioid. I think wide cardioid is good if you're moving around a lot. But I don't. I kind of sit in one spot. I'm laser focused to the capsule. But yeah, wide cardioid. Not necessarily a pattern I would use, but I mean, I'm glad it's there. Maybe I'll use it someday. Haven't had a real chance to, but anyway. And rounding it out is Omni. And I'm not a big fan of Omni. I think Omni doesn't work for what I do. So, Omni is an unnecessary pattern. So really, for me, let's go back to cardioid. So for me, really, the sweet spots on the U89 are cardioid, figure 8, and supercard, or hypercard. And it takes EQ very well. There's, again, no EQ on this. If I put a little bit of EQ on it, this is, what do I have here? I have 1.7 boost at 6K. Yeah, 1.7 to 6K. And a low shelf cut of 2.2 at 80 hertz. But that's in addition to, I also have an 80 hertz low cut on it. And I don't think really if I took the low, here I'm taking the low cut off. So really that low end EQ isn't really doing anything. But it's not the way the MT48 is. It doesn't make it weird sounding if you have the filter on and you also have an overlapping EQ. So, just a little bit of a mid range boost on this, upper mid boost. I think really makes it pop a little bit more. But I don't know if it's really necessary for most stuff. But it's a very versatile mic. It's just not as mid-forward, and it feels there's almost like a little bit of softness in that mid-range. There's kind of a notch in the mid-range where I think really the nasally part is. And for the most part, I mean, this microphone was designed for voice work, for not necessarily voice-over, although that is a consideration, and they talk about that on their product page, but also for, singing. That kind of voice work. Because believe it or not, there are actually people out there who use microphones for things other than just voiceover. It blows my mind, but I guess there are. So for those of you who enjoy singing into a mic, you freaking weirdos, I don't know what I'm talking about. All right, so the U89, the Playboy Advisor. Wow, lots going on today. And we went long. I didn't intend to go this long. So what do you think? What do you think of the U89? I'm a big fan of this mic. Playboy, Neumann, the Playboy U89, complete with bunny ears. The Neumann U89 is supposed to be a great all-rounder. And I agree. But there are certain things that the U87 does for voiceover that the U89 just can't. And I think that they complement each other. But we're going to talk into the U87 next time. And that way you can maybe compare the two and see what you like about that. What do you like about the U89? What do you not like about it? Let me know in the comments. And tell me what you think of the Playboy Advisor. And if you have any requests for anything you want me to find in the Playboy Advisor, a topic you may want me to find, or one of those, from the table of contents, a general discussion topic, let me know. All right. You've been listening to the Microphone Playboy. Until next time, this is Mark Yoshimoto Nemkov, fading to black.
In a world of sound, there's a gem so bright, the Neumann u89, pure audio delight. From the studio's grand to the humble booth, it captures every nuance, every truth. Neumann u89, so fine with a legacy that stands the test of time. For voices clear, for stories told, you're the mic that turns sound to gold. 5 polar patterns, versatility and hand, cardioid to omni, it's the best in the land. With low self-noise and high SPO, in every setting you truly excel. Neumann voiceover, you're the star. In music and speech, you set the bar. With a design so sleek and sound so pure, for any recording you're the cure. This is 81, you've been the choice for engineers and artists. The perfect voice, in every note, in every word. With the U89, perfection's assured. Neumann u89, so fine with a legacy that stands the test of time. For voices clear, for stories told, you're the mic that turns sound to gold. So here's to the Neumann, the u89, for capturing moments sublime and divine in every studio, on every stage. You're the mic that will never age. Go! Five polar patterns on the cardioid, figure 8, hypercardioid, wide angle cardioid, wide angle, no self-noise at 13 dBA, maximum ST elephant and 30 dB. Frequency range from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, transformer fed output for authority. The u89, a marvel of technology, a legacy of sound unmatched and free.